Thomas Jefferson said that kindness was moral elevation that made people want to be better people. I felt that this week. Okay, you can be jealous for 5 seconds. I was on the red carpet this week. But it wasn't the carpet in Hollywood. It wasn't that red carpet. It was the spiritual red carpet down at Seaside Center for Spiritual Living with Dr. Christian Sorensen and the Vista Virtual Conference. And it was the closing ceremony of the conference where we celebrated Dr. Roger Teal. And he's been in ministry for 40 years, 25 of which are at Mile High, the very large center in Denver, Colorado. But here's what I know about Dr. Roger. From the time I first started ministry and I met him, he looked at me and he made me feel important. He didn't just say, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." He looked at me. And every time I see him, no matter where we are, how long it's been, and it's not just me. I've seen him do it to everyone, but he makes me feel special. The moment he looks at me from across the room and goes, and then he goes up and he's careful to make sure he's just there with me. And it makes me a better person. It makes me want to be that better person. And when he shared his talk this last Thursday, he mentioned something. His talks are always wonderful and heartfelt and meaningful, but he mentioned something I hadn't heard before and I thought was really interesting. We've all heard about the process of the caterpillar to the butterfly and how the caterpillar eats and eats and eats and gets fat and builds its cocoon because it can't hold itself anymore, and then it melts into these imaginal cells, and we know all that. But he said that what happens is that the caterpillar gets to a place of critical unworkability. It can no longer be what it used to be. And it has to get in the cocoon. And it has to totally melt down into these new cells to transmute, transform, and be a different person. And I do think in our world right now, we are at that place. We can't be the people we've always been. We were called here. Our soul knew what we were coming into, so don't give me any other stuff. Why am I here? You asked for it. We're here for a reason. And our souls know what that is. And even though we may feel that unworkability, that critical unworkability, it's calling us to a greater expression of ourself. And if we think, if we go back and think of those random acts of kindness, remember when that first caught on, the random act of kindness, and we wore those little bracelets, the little plastic ones, that would say, practice random acts of kindness. Remember that? And how good they felt at times when we'd hear about them. Does everybody remember that? Yeah, that was really fun. We can't just do that anymore. I'm going to change the random acts of kindness to spontaneous acts of kindness. Acts of kindness we do all the time, on moment by moment, when we see it's possible. And, it's time that we get back to really the truth of who we are. We talk about all this fluff up here, but if we go back to ancient times, we can realize it's the stuff we're made of. Now, in the Old Testament, there is a word that is mentioned 234 times. Now, I looked, it's a Hebrew word, and since I'm not too good at but I listened. I can't believe I just did that, actually. See, if you do it without trying, you can do it. So I turned on to say, how do you say this word, pronounce this word? And this absolutely darling rabbi came on. Jeans, t-shirt, and he was very cute. So I listened very intently. And the word is chesed. Chesed. And he said, if you say the word properly, you have to be spitting on the person in front of you. So the word means kindness, but a little more than that. But see, that's why it's contagious. let me share this, because this is what chesed means. It means loyal, steadfast, everlasting love. It's way bigger than just the love we have here. It's huge. But it denotes the unbounded loving kindness with which God created the world and with which he permeated all of its creation. That's what we're talking about. This word means loving kindness. And when we practice it, we know God at a deeper level. It's not the little kindnesses we do that are sweet and good, but it's the kindness that makes us swell up and be a bigger person and know this greater energy. We are permeated with it. It's not something we just get. We're permeated with it. And we have to remind ourselves, because the world gets so heavy and so confusing, we get bound up in other things when the truth of our being is this loving kindness in which we were created. Wow, that's huge. It's in us. And in the book of Psalms, which is in the Old Testament. It's the favorite and most read book of the Old Testament. It's filled with prayers and hymns and poems about the Jewish feelings about life. And it talks so much about this chesed, this loving kindness. And it says, every morning, devote time to that steadfast love of which you are. Connect with it, own it, know it, and then be faithful in the evening to know the next day will bring the same. Do you know, I start my day before I get out of bed doing just that. Breathing in that love that I feel from Spirit. I love it. I feel it. I feel it. I know it. And then how can I use this in the world today? I know when I forget. Kirk knows when I forget. My animals know when I forget. Because loving kindness changes things. And also, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So when you have this loving kindness as a focus point in your life, as what you see, it changes the things you look at. So Jesus said pretty much the same thing. A bit later, he said, I only have 2 commandments, and we all know them. Love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and love one another. Period. And his disciples would repeat that. I know the apostle John said, I have one thing to say, love one another. That's it. And it went on to say in all of the books about the importance of this loving kindness. And in the Gospel of Thomas, it said, bring forth who you are, which to me is loving kindness, the kindness of Spirit. It's more than just the acts of kindness, which are good, but this is the deep kindness. Bring forth that which you are, and it will save you. And Ernest Holmes, big letters, we are instinctively kind. It's not something we have to go get. It's who we are. It's in us. So what's the problem? How do we misuse kindness? How do we misuse it in our life? I first met Donna Markova when I got this book, I Will Not Live an Unlived Life. And I love her because she talks about passion. This is about purpose and passion. And I looked, and she has a company. Quite big company, Professional Thinking Partners. And she talks about how people learn to work smarter together. And she has a book called Collaborative Intelligence, about working with people that think differently. It's about building that thread of understanding and kindness in the world. But she has a story about her life. And it's very interesting. She says, one of the greatest lessons I ever got in my life, I got from my immigrant Russian grandmother. And when she came to this country, she said, people in this country give the wrong way. You see, when you give from here, and she pointed to her solar plexus, our human will, you give to get. You're making a ledger book. Okay, I gave you this, so here's what I expect in return. Do you get what I mean? She said her grandmother said to her, that kind of giving damages your soul. She said, true giving comes from here. It's not something that's owed or something that's going to owe you. You give to live because it ignites you, it fills you, it expands you, it opens you. And what you know about that heart energy, not the physical heart, but the divine spark in here, it doesn't ever need to be plugged in. It's infinite, eternal. It never has to stop giving. That's when we connect with God. That's the loving chesed, kindness. Right here, it's here. It's that kindness where we just know it's our job, it's our purpose in the world. You know, when we get a concept, a thought of separation, we limit ourselves. We cut off that openness, and we put ourselves kind of in a prison, and then we can only be kind to a certain group of people or love only a few people in our life. And the only thing that's going to take those walls down for us is really widening our circle of compassion. And compassion and healing and kindness and love, they're all the same thing. And what studies have shown is that kindness really does heal. And if we look at it from just a but a health benefit, if we look at it from a health benefit, there are hormones that are released when we are truly kind. Oxytocin and serotonin, which uplift our moods, improve our immune system, as Em said, make us younger, and absolutely they keep us kinder people live longer, is in these studies. God, how old am I? I hope I live I'm not sure, but anyway, so those are the reasons, but actually it heals in other ways. Ernest Holmes says that kindness is twice blessed. It not only blesses the person that gives, and makes them remember the truth of who they are, that love that created them. But it also gifts the beneficiary, the person that receives that kindness, because they recognize and know the kindness of the universe. Reverend Kirk, you put on the e-blast this week, I love this quote, "Be the reason someone believes in the goodness of people." I love that. There you are. It's just so good. And so that's what you do. You share the goodness of people. You uplift people's beliefs. But I'm going to, Ernest Holmes said we could be open at the top. And if we found out something new, we could add it to what he said. So I'm going to say, if I can get this out, kindness is thrice blessed. Thrice blessed. 3 times. Because, what's being proven now in studies, but we can also see it, is look what happens when we just look at kindness. Look at that little dog and cat. Oh my gosh, it was just, we feel better. So it's not just the giver, the receiver, it's the observer. The observer is also affected by kindness. So when we look around and see kindness happening, it makes the world a happier and better place. We don't know where this loving kindness is going to come from. I mentioned earlier, it can come from people we know, we don't know. It can come from artists. It can come from authors. It can come from all sorts of different areas. I was blessed by Rumi this morning, but it's not the Rumi that I share every week. It's the little one with a tiny little furry tail. It's my dog. That little stinky dog. He's a foodie, but he's just a little love bug except when he isn't. But this morning he was scratching on the cupboard where his treats are, and I didn't know if Kirk had given him a treat before he left. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm kind of in a hurry, but all right, I'll give you a cookie. So I went in, got a cookie from his drawer. But he wasn't sitting in front of the cabinet like he usually does. He was sitting by the glass, the sliding glass door, and I went, I wonder why he's here. Okay, well, I gave him his cookie and made him do his little tricks, and I looked up. The sunrise this morning. Oh, I was actually brought to tears. It was so beautiful, and I would have completely missed it if that little foodie hadn't wanted a cookie. You know, we never know where these random acts of kindness, spontaneous acts of kindness are going to come from. So yes, it definitely heals. It's definitely contagious. Kindness is something that you and I need to be practicing all the time. Kindness to ourselves, kindness to others. We need to be concentrating on it and working on it and making sure that we are in the healthiest place. Fear grows out of things we think, right? Would you believe that? Yes. It lives in our minds. Compassion and kindness grow out of the things we already are. We already are. And it lives in our hearts. What do you need to do right now? What do you need to let go of in your life to change the understanding? To change the way you look at things, so the things you look at change. To let go, to be something more. You know, when we say kindness is contagious, and we talk about, of course, the observer, we've heard the story of when somebody goes through a toll booth and the person in front of them has already paid it. Or I just heard a story this week, a woman was sharing that she went through a a little fast food drive-in, and she was getting ready to pay, and the teller said, "I'm sorry, I don't need your money. The person in front of you paid." She said, "What? Oh my gosh." And then she said she turned around to make sure there wasn't a football team in the car behind her. But she said, "I want to pay for the person behind me." And all the people inside that were working there started chuckling. And she said, "What's so funny about that?" And she said, "This has been going on for 45 minutes. We want to be kind. There is something in us that wants to be kind. We want to care. We want to give. We want to do our best. We need to make every single moment of our lives matter. We can recognize when we're down and we need kindness and be open to it, because Ernest Holmes said life is ever giving of itself. We know that already. Giving, giving, giving. It never stops. We must be able not only to receive it, we have to do that. What are you willing to receive right now? We have to utilize it. You see, we don't create kindness. It's already in us. It's a God-given fruit of the Spirit. Just as love, joy, peace, harmony, compassion, that's all stuff that's in us. But we need to utilize it and use it and then extend it. So if we say, I need kindness, we need to settle in and find our own first. Find our own first. How often have you decided to get out of your own way and help somebody else and it's changed your life? That can happen all the time. When we realize, we get stuck and, it's just so hard. And sometimes it is. And sometimes we don't know how we do it because we can't do it by ourselves. But we can take a moment and extend that love, extend that goodness. So let's take a moment now. And our call to action is one thing. And it's the same thing Emily said at the end of her message today is, let's be kind. So take a moment and just settle in as we join together in a time of prayer, a time of knowing, a time of accepting the good that's ever present in us, the good that's present around us. Let's just take this moment and breathe in right here and right now. And feel that call of kindness, that loving kindness that wants to be expressed through us, as us, in us, around us, right now in this moment. Imagine if you could just be a little kinder to yourself. How would you feel? If you could spread that out into the world, how would it feel? Imagine being a piece of life that is uplifting. So in this time when we recognize and know truly that God is all there is, feel its pulsating energy, its light, its love, its kindness that flows through us in this moment, recognizing the truth of our being is harmonious, recognizing that we are truthfully peaceful at the center of our being. We don't have to go anywhere or do anything except settle in to the truth of what we already are in this and every moment. And also feel the loving kindness that created us, the love of Spirit that gave us life and continues to give us everything we need right here and right now. That loving kindness that connects us not only to the family around us, to the community and the people we love around us, that can uplift, absolutely, can uplift, elevate right now ourselves, our family, our community, and our world. It's time we join together and speak the goodness, the truth, the love, the care, and make that our language. Oh, how blessed we are in this and every moment to know, truly, that we are both blessed and a blessing. We choose to be it, to heal it, to act it, to know it right now. And in that truth we know, we just simply release it to this infinite mind of God, the law that only knows to give us what it has been given. So in this moment we see the world of peace, the world of kindness, the world of love right now. We feel it in our hearts. We say, thank you, God. And let's seal that by saying together, and so it is. Thank you for being my little pinpoints of love and light in my world. I love it, and I appreciate you. And so it is. Thank you.